Oh, thank you, John. Well, I have some good news. Well, let me back up. For anybody that's just joined, Joe is going to be late if he is able to join us at all. And if somebody sees him up here, give me a heads up. But we're going to continue on. We got several things to talk about. And first thing order of business is I got a reply just a few minutes ago from ARDC. Only thing left is a final report. They said that's the only thing that's needed now, and we have, 4 to 6 months to get that in there.
Great.
ARDC
the
is
next
the
report.
people that gave us the grant?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Excellent. Okay. I'm caught up now. Thank you.
Amateur Radio Digital Committee. Trying to think what the C stands for, but anyway, they seem to be very understanding and sympathetic, and for
Good.
giving out that kind of money, they've been very easy to deal with.
Where do they get the money from?
Huh?
Where do they get the money from?
Oh, you haven't heard?
No.
The they had so much internet capacity for, I'm not sure the details on it, but they had a lot of capacity that was set aside for amateur radio. And when it was concluded that we didn't need all that, they sold off a portion of it and got millions of dollars.
Wow.
Probably a considerable amount, and so they're using that money to help build digital radio.
Good idea.
And it's sort of a windfall for everybody. I mean, the Lansing Group, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars to develop the state digital for use for all the communities that are using, ARD, like groups like Mike is involved with, when
ARPSC.
ARPSC, public safety.
Yeah, all the emergency groups. Wayne County's got theirs up. Every county's got theirs.
Right.
Mark Raymond's involved with the Oakland County and so forth. So that's where the money's coming from, and I'm going to put it up on top order of business. And before that, I'm going to preface this by I got a message from Bob, our treasurer, stating that the check has been sent in for the order that Al and Joe and who's ever working with Al there, for the actual repeater and the supporting equipment. I got a list of it. And so that order was processed today, and we should get it in a week or two, from what I understand.
Sweet.
And and then the next order of business is the controller. Now, I'm going to probably lean on Al again for, since he's been so successful. How it goes. You get some success, we start using it here, Al. And maybe Andrew, if Andrew's on board here, you guys can work together and come up with a controller and whatever software and supporting stuff that goes with this, with the controller. That's our next major. That's what's going to tie it all together, I think. And I know little about it myself, but I'm sure if Andrew and Al can put their heads together, I'm sure they'll come up with something here and make a recommendation.
You did have an email chain. A lot of feedback. I think John and Mike have their audio on still.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Perfect. Alrighty. Can you hear me now?
I sure can.
Alrighty. Well, I included everybody in the email chain last week regarding the controller and the needs and the other options as opposed to using a controller and a voter that are basically obsolete. They're antiquated equipment. At least the voter is, and they're hard to come by. And Andrew broke everything down very specifically. The difference between using a voter and perhaps the data network, and then hopefully in the future, maybe our own 5G connection, so we don't have to rely on voice over the internet. So, I honestly, it's too bad Joe's not here. I'm glad Andrew's here, but judging what I've researched and the things that I'm not able to find readily available are analog voters. Now, from what I get, I don't know, hope everybody kept up to date with the email chain and the back and forth going on. The question is, why do we need both? Well, I guess honestly, really, we probably don't need both. And I would like to see us move future forward into, the next generation of technology with young hams like Andrew and Dave, perhaps leading the way in the charge in future communications and linking capabilities. So, we haven't touched any topics yet on the remote receive sites. They talked about maybe putting in one receive one, what are those? RC, the GPS and the data link, the All-Star data link at one for the UHF to get it back into the main. We have those other two sites on VHF for the hospital, and well, I don't know, I guess maybe the airport. I wouldn't, really rest assured of any future use on that site. But
well, the airport's got to be redone a little bit. The antenna's in a bad situation in order to make that really functional if we're to use it on a long-term basis.
Honestly, that
was
site
put up
doesn't,
as an experimental thing.
nothing really comes in there. Nobody is over there that accesses the DART at all. And I think all the money and effort that was put into that project, it was cool for the kids, but it hasn't generated any new memberships at all. And there's really very few hams over there that are involved with the DART. We should be focused more on, this area, Oakland County, Northwest Oakland County. But as back to the remote receive sites, currently we need 2 transceivers at each site to crossband and then send a signal from UHF back to the UHF receiving antenna at the main site. So there's 2 old Alinquos at every receive site, duct taped together, whatever, stuck together with a data cable. So one's a VHF, one's a UHF. There's also a power supply that's needed at every site. So that means there's 2 antennas at every site. There's a VHF antenna for the reception, and then a UHF antenna, a Yagi probably, directing back toward the DART. So, if we were to eliminate the whole need for a voter that is really hard to find and link everything via All-Star and VoIP, and then hopefully in the future, and would be a nice project to find out, I'm sure we have line of sight from the top of the hospital for the East Receive site into the DART in Oak Park. Those 2 buildings are quite tall enough. I'm sure there's line of sight from the side of the water tower back into the DART for the the UHF 5G link if need be. So I guess questions that need to be answered is how many, if we went no voter, went strictly 5G and VoIP with All-Star and routers, the only voter I can find is the All-Star voter. And that's the path that I think Andrew and Dave were wanting to go down. And I agree.
That's what Shaw's encourages to go with, yep.
Yeah, and then we can link future down the road into, the MI5 network or whatever other network to go completely off the grid. Andrew could probably explain it a lot better than I can. But, I think myself, I've explained well in the email the path that I would like to see. I mean, how often has the club had a chance to get a free repeater? We've been working with that old Quantar for the last 45 years, probably. Here we have a chance, Len, if we can I don't know what's left in the network side. We have, I'd say, about $10,500 left in the grant after the new repeater came out of it. So I'm not sure exactly how much. It was a big hunk save for connections and cables, and I don't know what was that. That's all used for 44%. It's obvious we're not going to have any installation labor charges done by the first of the year, and without getting an exact finalization as to when we have to spend it by, now it becomes an issue is okay, well, is this going to get dragged out further and further and further? And we end up now 6 months from now when there's 6 weeks left to spend what's left then? Or do we plan right now as to what direction we really want to go? I would like to see, we got such a great price on this repeater for the VHF. I would like to see the club get a UHF repeater for DMR as well. Regardless as to where it's at, we still have to go through coordination frequencies with the Coordination Council, the Michigan Amateur Radio Council, to get any other new frequencies on UHF, which is, from what Sean was saying, a lot more easy to get than a VHF paired frequency. We're in a metro area. VHF is a smaller band for inputs and outputs. So for us to try to get a new frequency in this area would be very tough. So we got to keep that in mind. And also, I've uploaded to the Google Drive for the Dart, and I've included a link to that, information about obtaining new coordinated frequencies and also moving ones that you currently have. So you can't just pick a repeater up and move it. It has to be approved by the coordination, by the council, to make sure, you got to give it a whole new address. You got to tell them how much power, what kind of an antenna, how much gain, and they put it through a formula, a big chart, and they look at the footprint of it to make sure it's not going to interfere with another repeater close to that frequency. So we can't just pick the repeater up at the Dart and go put it over at Oakland University. You can't just move it. It's going to take a lot of time and a coordinated effort to get everything approved. So regardless, we have to try to plan right now. I guess the plan is to where we're at. So even if we got another UHF repeater, fit that into the budget that we currently have. So say 5,500 from 10,500. So we're right around $5,000 left for all the current or whatever we have left to get for the network. I don't know how much that is. I know Joe asked David to compile an RFQ of everything we need. I don't know if anyone's received it. I haven't received it. Maybe Andrew is working with Dave. I don't know. He can perhaps enlighten us as to how much and what exactly would be needed at each receive site. But I know we would be able to eliminate one radio, the UHF transmit, to get back into the Dart when we crossband if we went all-star on every site. So I think that's the wave of the future. And if my vote has anything to do with it, I would like to see us move forward with, the all-star voter capabilities. So
well, then the next order of business is to determine to apply for our frequency pair. Then who would be willing to look into
that? That we don't need to worry about right now, right? That's
right.
If we happen to have money left over and we wanted to get a new UHF, or if we wanted to move the VHF, we would have to do that. But that's not like I would say that's out of the scope of this project for now, at least until we make sure we have
Sean was encouraging us to get the application in there and get the process working.
Yeah. Because if we do have some left over, it'd be better to have that process started. But at the same time, I think there's more. It's not a high priority, I would say. Right.
Yeah. And I think Sean thought that our intention from the get-go was to be all-star and to be linked into Central Michigan and all that. I think he thought that was our full intention. And so that was a mistake on whatever part.
All right. Yeah. No, Sean mentioned last week to, submit an application for a UHF a new paired frequency, not our current one, but a new paired frequency. Regardless where we end up putting another UHF site, if we want to swap it out where it's at now, well, that's fine. We won't have to use a new paired frequency. But his thought was to put a UHF repeater with DMR and all the linking capabilities next to the VHF repeater in Oak Park. So there would be two repeater systems up there, one on VHF with no DMR, no digital noise, and one on UHF with analog and DMR. So it would be a whole new paired frequency at the same site. So we can't submit any paperwork for a paired frequency if we don't know where the location is going to be. We know the power of the repeater that we have now. We got a location. How we could probably use the antenna that's up there to receive the remote sites and times, do the math with the gain from that antenna, which is probably 3 dB. I don't think that UHF antenna has much gain. So we could theoretically right now submit new coordinated frequencies on UHF for the DART at the current main site. Now, what Sean said, he goes, it takes about a year. I don't know. He would know for them to, respond to anything. And he said, then at that point, there's actually a little bit more lead time if we don't have everything, ready to go up at that point. And also, if we don't use it at that site, we're not charged anything. It's no obligation. It doesn't cost anything to submit an application. So he was saying basically it's best to get some in the works, regardless if we actually use it. We would have another paired frequency for another repeater on UHF if we ever get to that point in a year. So, yes, I think it's probably a good idea to move forward, have somebody maybe start, researching it. I did upload some documentation to the Google Drive, and I can send everybody a link to that in the chat message here. I uploaded all the brochures and manuals, all the quotes that I got from all the suppliers and vendors, and I even had Bob upload the last purchase order for the newest repeater. I'd like to find out exactly how much everything else costs. I'd like to see the purchase order for the duplexer and the isolator.
Well, that's been circulated.
Yeah, I haven't seen it uploaded though on the Google Drive. I haven't checked it. Bob
Okay.
said he would do it. I don't know if he knows how to do it yet. So he
Well,
sent me the invoice for the repeater. So I uploaded that. But
Yep.
it would be nice to know. For instance, I'll tell you why. The insulator, I'd like to know how much you purchased the insulator from the antenna farm. I thought it was around $1,500. And maybe Len, you can find this
That's
out for me. Because right
that
now,
was with the duplexers on the same order.
right, yeah, and I don't have the breakdown. And I'll tell you why this is very important. Because about a week ago, I went on to the antenna farm and checked the price of the isolator, the same one that you got, and it said around $2,100. It's like, wow,
Ooh.
oh, you must have got it really good. Len and guys, I went on there 2 days ago, and that price went up to $3,100. It's constantly going up, and this is why I think it's really important we get everything we need as soon as we can before any of this other crap becomes too expensive. We can't afford it, or just unavailable because no one's going to stock it. So that's why I'm curious to know exactly how much we paid for that isolator and the duplexers and that, because I think everything is rising now literally by the day. And this is why we got to stay on top of this. We can't keep kicking this can down the road. We need a breakdown of the network, how much it was going to cost for each remote receive site. Can we get antenna for future, up on the side of the water tower? Do we need a separate dish microwave antenna for each receive site at the main for the remotes to come in, and the UHF TransLink and All-Star? These are things I don't know. And then maybe Andrew and Dave or someone that's, I don't know what the bandwidth, the pattern on a microwave antenna is. Would it be able to receive a receive site on the east side and one on the northwest side, for instance? Or are we going to need multiple receive antennas on microwave for
You
a 5G connection at the
you
main site?
Go
you
ahead,
do
Dave.
need uh hey, how's it going? Um I did give that number to Joe. Apologies. I can recirculate that breakdown for what we need for the main and then what we need for the other remote sites. I should be able to circulate that today. No problem. And then I did look at a point to multi-point system. So you just have one antenna at the main and then you put remote receives out at the remote receives. The issue is that the power output of a multi-point transmitter, it wasn't powerful enough to get out to the distances that we needed to get to, and so we had to fall back to using point to point. So yes, it would, each individual receiver would have its own transmitter. They would be their own link as opposed to a multi-point link.
Well, the transmitter at the remote receive site. Now, what about the receiver, at the main site that's receiving all the data? You still need a separate dish or antenna for each receive site at the main as well?
So it doesn't work that way. It's at the main site. That would be like the transmission site, and then everybody would tune into it. But the multi-point transmitter that would go at the main site is not powerful enough to reach all of our remote receive locations. And so we had to do a point to point. So each one would have its own microwave.
Right. Well, I guess I'm getting kind of backwards here. The transmitter at the main site, what's it transmitting to the remote sites?
Connection. So it's, if you imagine it, because it's effectively Wi-Fi. So if you think about it, like in your house, you have your Wi-Fi transmitter and you have all of your devices connected to it. That's the way that this will work, is that the transmitter would be at the main site and then all of the remote sites would be connected to it. It doesn't work if you put a single, like your cell phone, you can't be connected to 2 or 3 or 4 Wi-Fis at the same time. You have to be only connected to one. And so that would be the way that this would work. So if we put a transmitter at the remote site and a receiver at the main site, you could only connect to one remote location at a time. So that's no good to us. So each one has to be its own path.
All right, because right now, the receive sites, the remote receive sites, are transmitting to the main site. So the main is not transmitting
It's
absolutely
not
nothing back.
the microwave stuff isn't transmitting, it's transmitting and receiving. It's a bidirectional link. So we could send
But
data from the main site to the remote site or from the remote site to the main site, but the main site's the one that's doing all of like the session negotiation and all of that.
Ah, okay. See, very interesting. Now this
Yeah,
is
sure
why
is.
we have to move in this direction instead of trying to find an old archaic analog voter. I've looked and searched and everything is used and old. We don't want that. We already have one and we know the problems with it. So I don't know if we end up taking this to a vote as to which direction to go. I don't see how it isn't perfectly clear why we have to move into this new arena of technology. So, Dave, do you have off the top of your head, do you know about approximately how much you were at with the compiled RFQ and the quote?
Yeah, so just like off the top of my head, I want to say for the main location, just for the internal network, so without including the remote locations, I was at like 2,100 or something like that. And then with everything, so for remote locations, the UHF, transmitters and receivers, switches, the whole lot, I want to say it was like $700 over budget. So whatever is budgeted for the network, it's like $700 over that is for absolutely everything. But I was asked to pare it down to see about just getting the main set up and not connecting the remote locations just now. And then I was asked to change it again to add the airport and the hospital. And then we have to look at the water tower. So there was a failed test to try and connect to the water tower because there's not line of sight. So I don't know what the thought was about that, but the problem is that there's no line of sight between the water tower and the main location.
Well, I'm
Well,
surprised.
I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
It's only a 3 mile difference, and that tower is higher than any tree. And
well, not it. Well, so all of our equipment isn't on the tower. Our equipment is in that shed, and to add things to the tower was expensive. We were trying to avoid that, but it doesn't look like that is going to be avoidable. It looks like we're going to have to put it up there. Um, and there was no additional conversation had about that.
Okay, right. No, you couldn't. There's definitely no line of sight from that shack to the Federation. No way. You definitely got to be up on that tower, either one of
Yeah.
the legs or on the railing. You know what they did at the Clarkston? They actually moved their transmitter antenna, their repeater antenna, I guess for that matter, duplex, to the top of the water tower. They got the guys to climb up that water tower out there in Clarkston and put everything right at the very top of it. And it has an incredible coverage now. Its footprint is phenomenal. So yeah, I don't know how to get access to that water tower. I know John Teagarden has been involved with that, and I think it's through the city, probably of Birmingham or Beverly Hills, wherever it's at.
Well, what I
But
Yeah.
understand is we don't have access to that antenna. That antenna was up there and we were offered the space to it. And we just tapped in the coax or the connector, whether it's coax or not.
well, see,
We
that
just
would be
plugged into it.
right. I heard that too, and it would be nice if someone could find out if we could access that tower. Not necessarily us per se as individuals, if we needed a professional company to do something, or if they have somebody that could change an antenna or add something. It'd be nice to know, get the communication, get the contact information, get the liaison going to
Well,
whoever is
I
involved with
believe in
that.
Oakland County, there's only two licensed companies that can climb Oakland County water towers. Um, One of them is whatever the company is that work with the Oakland County Sheriffs for their towers, and then the other one is Trendset Solutions, and I have a relationship with the owner of Trendset. He was the guy that I worked with when we tried to put a North Receive in Lake Orion, and it didn't work out. It turned out to be too expensive, but yeah, I think there's only two companies that can climb water towers in Oakland County.
So in theory, we would have to use one of the two, and no one within the club or nobody on the outside of those two entities would be able to have access to the tower. I'm curious how they did in Clarkston, because I know the members themselves got up there, and I was thinking about reaching out to them and getting some information if they'd be, maybe possibly available or willing to do something or give us the direction. So yeah, my question was, what do we need at
That's
each site?
that's cool. If we can get access, that's great. But I just know that when I looked into it in Lake Orion, when we tried to put the North Receive, uh, there was an issue of life off tower. So it wasn't necessarily like an issue with somebody climbing up there, but you needed to have public liability for something that was mounted up there in case the wind took it and smashed a car or hurt a person.
Okay, right.
These days you need insurance no matter what for everything.
Yeah.
Well, I
Absolutely.
know a club has insurance. I don't know if it covers that or not, but
Well, something to maybe find out, look into. Well,
get-
I guess our main purpose for that would be a fallback fail-safe in case the VoIP network failed. We'd have kind of an off-the-grid connection with our own 5G microwave capabilities. So it's probably something we don't really need to worry about installing right away. But I think if we can get all the equipment in under this budget, let's stockpile it, right? Let's have it for when we can utilize it. Now, Dave, you mentioned 2100. Hell, that's pretty good. I think, and even seven beyond that. I think even if you go to 3 grand, for everything,
Well, that's that. There's no microwave dishes in that price. That is just the router, the UPS, or not the UPS, but the PSU, the switch, and so an access point for up at the main. So yeah, I'm on my way back to my hotel. I'm 17 minutes away. I'm in California right now working. But when I get back to my hotel, I can pull that list up and send it out.
oh,
that'd be great. Absolutely. If you want, also you can maybe upload it, or I can if I get a document
Yeah,
up
I,
to
I I'll
the
up,
Google
I'll
Drive.
upload it and then I'll send a link to it. That's fine.
Perfect. Outstanding.
okay,
Now,
very
what
good.
do you know offhand about how much the dishes would be in addition?
The dishes the dishes were not awful. It's like the pair. I want to say the pair were God, like $500 or something like that. Um, ULR, U ULX. No, I don't. I'm trying to remember what the part number is that you could just look it up. But yeah,
Okay.
I don't
So
I don't remember what they are off the top of my head.
so basically we already have one pair. We would just relatively need at least one more pair for perhaps the hospital and another pair for the airport. So basically right now you're saying an additional perhaps $1,000 in dishes, antennas for the complete five, the microwave backup. Is that what I'm getting?
If somebody there, that's what it is. If somebody, I'm driving, but if somebody can look up, you no, ULX is not right. It's fine. I'll send it out. I'm 15
Okay,
minutes away
no
from my
big,
hotel. I'll
absolutely, yeah.
send it out when I get there.
Don't worry about it. Interesting, because like I said, I think we're right around 10,500 right now. What's remaining? It could be off a little bit. At 1,000 for dishes, roughly. In addition, so what's that? 9,500 and another 2,500. 7,000 leaves us with 7,000. That's still enough to get a UHF DMR repeater. So I don't know.
I wouldn't worry about the repeater at all right now, right? Because I think the big thing that I think we're all forgetting about is the antenna, right? We're going to get a brand new repeater system, and we have to make sure that we at least have some funding left over to get the antenna onto the roof. Because
Right. Well,
I don't
that's a good
see that.
question. Exactly. And now that was the point as to how long now do we have this extension, right? Because I was thinking, well, if this money has to be spent by the first of the year, there's no
Well,
way in
so
hell we're
we
getting
the money,
anything up on that
yeah,
that
we
roof.
don't worry about that because the money is already in our account, right? And it's not like it's a we're gonna potentially be out of pocket because we buy something and then don't get it reimbursed. So the money is all in the
Okay. All
account.
right. Well, that's
Based on
more
what I
reassuring.
know with the grant, I don't know if Joe has reached out to ARDC or not.
Well, I just announced that at the beginning here.
Okay.
I got a letter back just a few minutes before we got on here, replied to my report that I sent in to
Mhm.
ARDC, and they thanked us for the report, and they says the contract reads the 31st of January is when we're supposed to have a final, things supposed to be wrapped up, but in spite of um, some of the hiccups we've had, It says April is no problem, and even further if we need it. So just let them know. Keep in contact is what they're asking.
Yeah, so what they don't necessarily care if stuff came up or we had setbacks. That's not a problem. What they don't want to see is they gave out the money and then nothing's been done. So as long as we could show progress, which I think we've doing a good job with, I wouldn't worry at all about timelines. Now, if we start getting into next summer, okay, yeah, we probably want to kick it into gear.
You
But
are
as
correct.
far as worrying about trying to fit stuff in the budget, I would primarily focus on the VHF repeater. Um, you know, I think the next big thing is, are we going to go with All-Star for the voter and controller solution, or are we going to go with individual voter and individual controller? And once we decide that, we can get you need a RTCM and a GPS and a GPS antenna for the two remote sites and the VHF site. And once we get that, I think, a computer. And then aside from that, I think that's all we would need for the VHF site to be, um, we'll say, more or less complete, excluding any cables or anything like that.
Well,
Because
Andrew, can you and Dave and Al work together and come up with a recommendation regarding this controller? Which way we should go? Maybe this coming week.
Yeah.
Would that be too much
So,
to ask? Or
well, so what we need to know is what are the expectations of the standalone controller, right? Because we want to make sure that whatever we were getting the controller for is possible to do with Echolink. And so far, every response I've gotten for what we need the controller for is very feasible with Echolink, or not Echo, All-Star Link. So I think All-Star Link is the way to go, provided that there's no oh, we wanted the controller for this specific feature and we were going to use it for that. But voice playback that could be done with All Star Link. Time of day announcements, Echo Link can be routed in all your audio routing. So everything so far has been feasible through All Star. So I think that's the direction that as of right now
That
is
should be the
recommended.
direction. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Let's
Okay.
let's concentrate on future uses and not an old
so,
system.
what hardware do we need to order for that?
So that we would just need the RTCMs, which is like the modem basically that hooks up to the radio on one side, and then a GPS for timekeeping, and then a network connection, whether it's the internet, our own network, whatever. Um, so we would need three of those per site, or three of those, one per site. So hospital, airport, and the main site. The UHF site, we wouldn't have one because it's not part of the voting system, since it's on a different frequency. And so all of that, I think it's like 298 or something like that for RTCM. The GPS, you could get boards for like $30, and then you'd need a antenna. And then all of that should be all you need. And we could just use the existing UHF or the existing VHF remote sites, and just hook up the RTCM instead of the UHF backhaul.
Now,
Hey, Andrew.
is that what Dave quoted and might be submitted already? Is everything that we just
No,
talked about?
that was to my knowledge, that's just the network side. So that's just the
Yeah.
5 gigahertz microwave. That's not any of the radio to IP translation.
Andrew, the three-letter PTSM something that you just said. What was that?
RTCM. It's
RTCM. Is that
yeah.
a computer? Does it So my question basically, the USB port. I have bought USB uh, GPS antennas very cheap for another project that I was doing. I even think that I might have some if you want to try one to see if it would work. But I bought them for like $12 a piece. They're just USB GPS antennas.
Oh, yeah, I don't, this is, the RTCM is just like a, microcontroller with like an Ethernet controller on it. And so it's
Okay, so
really like low level
there's no
embedded.
USB, like there's nothing, there's no smarts in it.
No, it's a serial link and then a pulse per second output is what it needs.
Gotcha. Okay, all right, that answers that then.
Yeah, but there's if you get like a fully made like device, they're kind of pricey. But for our use case, like I could just 3D print a back shell for the connector, the 15 pin connector, and then just get
Okay,
a board from one of the hobby companies like Adafruit or something like that. And then all we need to
okay.
do is put SMA on it and get an antenna.
And then
So
and then the other thing I've heard a couple of times folks talking about a computer. We all know that there's a small form factor Dell up there, right? A Windows 10 small form factor up there.
yeah,
I
so
have seen it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
So what that is how Tea Garden remotes up there. Like he connects to that computer, and then that computer has serial into the repeater so that he can change code plugs and stuff like that. And then it's got USB sound cards in it of when he was trying to use GNU Radio to make like basically build our own voter.
yeah,
So
the
that's all
one
that it is right
caveat
now.
to that is all Starlink is Linux only.
Yeah, can't you just throw Linux on a small form factor PC?
Yeah, but we'd as long as everyone is okay with that remote ability would potentially change.
Well, it's so the remote ability is going to change because the system that I'm putting in, there'll be a VPN server up there, so you would just VPN into it up there, and it would be as if your computer is connected up there.
Okay, yeah, so it'd be SSH, right? There'd be no graphical is kind of what I was going for.
Okay. Well, I guess I just wanted to say that there is already a computer up there. That's
Yeah.
all.
And I have a ton of like Windows 10 era PCs that I'd be willing to
Okay.
donate potentially because they're just collecting dust. So,
Okay.
but yeah, to that point, that should work. I think the minimum requirements are like a couple gigahertz processor and ideally as much RAM as possible. What we should be able to get by with just 4 gigs.
Okay.
So, Andrew, are you able to compile a quote then for that stuff? I know I researched the RTCM last weekend. They're $389 a piece, but if you use a licensed amateur call sign, you get it for 289. So you get $100 off.
Yeah.
And I put the link on that email chain for the manufacturer. Now the GPS and everything else, I don't know what you need. So right, I guess compile perhaps a list and maybe some prices, right?
And then just the other thing before I shut up super quick, I was at a red light and I looked it up real quick. The microwave dishes are $100 a piece, so 200 is for the heat link.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. No,
and
are there
that's the
different?
extreme range. They're the ones that are good for
Okay.
26 or 28 miles.
And that was going to be my next question. And they come with different gain levels and manufacturing, weather, capabilities, wind and water resistant and all that good stuff. So, right, we don't want to
Yeah.
buy something and have to buy it again in a year, right?
Yeah, no, these are the extreme range. They're the like at the speed, they're 900 meg throughput, 5 gigahertz. So you can do like 10 gigahertz. They call it air fiber, and it's a much faster put through, but they are substantially more expensive. You're talking like $8,000 to $10,000 per dish, which is
Yeah,
not anything we need.
I don't all know. Great, awesome. That's great. Good to know.
All right. Well, made good progress, I think. Um, do we need to get some information on climbing the water tower or anything? That was brought up, but I don't
I'd
think
like
that's.
to. I wonder how they did it out in Clarkston. I know Shannon and the repeater owner W8GLB, I think it is. Um, they got up there and moved everything, and they had to go back up there and assemble something else or put a strap on or some kind of ground, perhaps. But I'm just wondering how they did it on their tower because I know that Clarkston Tower is very similar to the one here in Beverly Hills. And hell, if they got the gonads to do it, maybe they wouldn't mind doing it for us if we can use them.
I don't know if you guys have ever gotten in on, if you have time and can, get on Facebook or on YouTube and look up repeater walkthroughs. They had it on a tower there, and they had a ladder that went right up through the middle of the tower, and you can get in a hatch up there and open up to be able to get up.
Yeah, I've
I
been on the
don't,
top
I
of.
never thought about that. Dave?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, I've been up the Lake Orion water tower a couple of times, and that's the
Yeah, we're losing you, Dave.
way. There's a ladder that goes. Oh, well, yeah, it's the Lake Orion one is a ladder up through the center.
Yeah. I
I
think the
didn't
one in
realize that.
Beverly Hills has the ladder going up the outside. Now, whether or not they have a door to walk inside the water tank in a tunnel to get to the middle and access another hatch to the center, I don't know if the Beverly Hills one has that. I think most of the ones that have the ladder up the middle are the mono standing water towers, right? They don't have the four legs on them. They're probably just the ones that are
Oh,
like a
yeah.
big ball at the top. So I don't know if that's what you saw on YouTube or not, Len. I did try to search both repeater walkthrough on YouTube, and you mentioned somewhere else, and there was
Yeah,
absolutely
Facebook.
yeah, oh yeah, nothing came back. So if you got a link, yeah, post the link for us.
You know, I'm not the most savvy computer guy, and I was trying to figure out how to do that, and send it to you guys. But anyway, I'll work on it.
I would think that for climbing towers, because of all the requirements, the safety requirements and stuff, you have to be almost certified. I know we used to climb towers all the time at the alarm company I worked at because we put a lot of monitoring devices in heat, water level, and stuff like that. And some years after I started, we quit going we in towers because you had to be certified and for liability reasons.
Yep,
So
sure.
it's if actual Clarkston people were doing it, somebody there may be certified in doing it, but the average Joe Blow is not going to have any kind of insurance just going up there on his own.
Yeah, that's why I
Especially
don't
not
know if
80-year-olds.
Shannon and boy, I can't remember his name. I think it's Justin up there in Clarkston. Perhaps they are licensed climbers. I don't know, what qualifications are. Perhaps they are, and that's how they're able to access the Clarkston, unless they know the owner some. But if they are licensed and they do have the capabilities, there's probably no reason we can't reach out to them and ask them for a quote at least, or if
Are,
they'd
are
be
you are
willing to
you
do it.
offering to reach out to him, Al?
I don't talk to them that much. I do hear them on there. If you have more direct contact with them, then
I
absolutely
don't.
whoever does it first. So yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point. Just something to ask them, regarding the water tower antennas if you hear them out there.
Well, all right. Any other thoughts or discussion? This has been a good time. I did get the casters. I found 4 casters in my junk box, and I put those on the on the cabinet that we're going to use, the Motorola cabinet. So at least it rolls around a little easier now.
So are those cabinets pretty clean? Do they need any refurbishing or anything, Len? Are they good to go? Or
There's no shelving in it. I do have some bolts, some 1032s, I think it is, bolts and so forth. We may have to make or fabricate or buy some shelves if we need actual shelving. I'm not real sure how those things fit in there. I know they bolt to the front rail. And that's another thing you might want to look at, because if you can get on these sites there and look how those repeaters are put together. Some are in cabinets and half of them are just on the racks. We have both. We got 2 racks and 2 cabinets. The thing about the rack is they're not enclosed. We'd like to, and if you have a dirty area or area that's, you would like to protect it if you can in a cabinet. So there's pros and cons on whether to use a rack or a cabinet. And I don't know if the duplex is going to fit in the bottom of a cabinet. That I took the measurements. If it does, it's only going to have a fraction of an inch clearance on anywhere on the rails to be able to clear it. It's going to be
if
really
you don't
tough.
put doors on, they might fit, but I don't think that's where they go to begin with, honestly.
Yeah. If you look at the different other sites, they have them on the outside a lot of times. A few of them are on the inside, but they're for the UHF, not for the HF or VHF.
We
And
have
they're
ours on
smaller,
the
obviously.
outside. The ones that we
John?
have now are on the outside.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Also, the cabinets, you get better airflow if the doors are on. You don't have,
Yes.
because you got an airflow, a column of air going up. Where if you don't have the doors, there's some air is going in through here, and there's a little pocket of air that just is heating up over here, and so you get, because they're designed to be operated with the doors on, so they design the airflow that way too.
Okay. Anybody have anything else?
No, I guess it's reassuring to know we're not under the gun now, so we can
Yes. Yes.
thoroughly investigate and research everything. And
I thought you would be interested in knowing that we got
Yeah.
that back just a few minutes ago, and they seem have a positive attitude about it, and they're on our side. Okay. Thank you very much.